This is the Church of the Nativity. We are in front of the church. And you know the story, Joseph and Mary came from Nazareth to Bethlehem because of the census. And you have to imagine that Bethlehem was a tiny village at that time and there was no place to stay. And the Holy Family was asking around, so they showed them a system of caves that was in use because archaeological finds date back between 600 and 800 years before Christ. So where can we go? No problem, please go in there. So they went in, probably there were other people inside, they looked left, right, kept on going till the end where they used to keep the animals. And they usually kept the animals at the back of the cave so they don't need to cross them at the entrance all the time. We know that that Mary was pregnant, so her days came. So she gave birth to Jesus, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, put him in a manger because there was no place in the inn. This sentence of Luke is important because the word swaddling clothes shows that the Holy Family was from the lower social classes, poor people. The word manger is important because it's the only word that shows that there were animals. And I would say in the inn is also important. Why? Because Luke insisted to tell us where they did not stay. They did not stay. He never said where they stayed, but he didn't say, he said where they did not stay. And actually, who stayed in the inn at that time? Probably travelers, people who came in for 1 or 2 days and left. And Luke wanted to tell us that Jesus came to stay with the people like the people. He did not come as a traveler to go in the inn for 1 or 2 days and leave. The first church, ladies and gentlemen, should we stand in the shade a little bit?
Yes.
The first church was built over the site in the 4th century after the Edict of Milan, after Constantine declared his tolerance to Christianity in the year 313. Many Christians started coming from the west to the east to visit the holy places, and that's why his mother Helen came and built 3 churches over 3 caves. The Church of the Nativity, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the Church of the Ascension on the Mount of Olives. And everything went fine. Actually, the first church was inaugurated in the year 333. Everything went fine to 529 till the Samaritans had the third uprising against the Byzantines and destroyed, burnt parts of the church. That's why the year 540 Justinian rebuilt the church, making it a little bit longer, adding an apse right and left, which we will see in a minute. That's why it looks like a cross if you have an aerial view. The same church was again renovated by the Crusaders. In the 12th century, when they came, actually they built a castle around the church. That's why you don't see today, it's a fortress, you know. You don't see the church from outside. And this section is the Armenian monastery. In the far back we have the Greek Orthodox monastery, and to this side we have the Franciscans, the Catholics, okay? The 6th century doors, the entrance had 3 doors. Let's go now a little bit to the side. There to the right you can see the corners of the stone sticking out of the wall. And to the left, behind this fortification, which was built because of an earthquake, and in the middle was the square one. And then the Crusaders thought it's too big, they put in the ark to make it a little bit smaller. And then in the year 1500, they made it very small, and they call it the humble door, okay? Today it's 1.30 meters high, 78 centimeters wide, 1 meter deep with a step in the middle. As you go in, you stay low. Yeah? Please don't go up, you might hit your heads, okay?
Ian.
Some people don't need to bend, and this is their luck, you know, and some people like me have to bend a lot. Okay. Should we take a group photo here of you? Please. But it's okay. We are standing in line to go down to the cave. You have to remember and to imagine that the church was built over the cave, and the cave is in the front, okay? And this cave which we are visiting is the end of the system, okay? Where they used to keep the animals, and they kept them, as I said, in the back of the cave, so you don't need to cross them at the entrance all the time. As we go the 14 steps down, actually before that, in the 4th century, in the first church, in the middle of this higher area, which is today the Greek Orthodox Church, there was an opening where you go there, look from up down to see the cave. In the 6th century, they thought this is not practical, so they closed the opening, open an entrance and an exit, which the people use today. As we go down the 14 steps down to the cave, to the right on the floor is the star. The star is the marking place, the Star of Bethlehem is the marking place where we believe Jesus was born. The star was placed there in the year 1717 by the Franciscans. It has 14 points, resembling 14 generations from Abraham to David, David Babylonia, Babylonia Jesus. Some explain that by the 14 stations of the cross. Okay? Now, you can touch the star, which is made actually of silver and is written on it in Latin, Jesus Christ was born here from you. You can touch the star, you can take a photo now. To the right on the floor is the star, and to the left is the place where the manger was. She gave birth to Jesus, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and put him in a manger. And today, the original parts of the original manger you can see today in a church called Maria Maggiore in Rome. Okay? So if you go to Rome, please go in line. If you go to Rome, then under the altar, you can see 5 original wooden pieces of that manger in a glass aquarium. Okay? I haven't seen it myself, but I had many groups who were there. And if you don't know about it, if you're not aware, you don't see it, because you don't know it's there. Okay? So, down the cave is 12 meters long, 3 meters wide, 3 meters height, was burnt once. And that's why we will see that it's covered with asbestos sheets on the walls. This was given from Marshal Macau. Please go in line. In line, not here. In line. Okay. This is the Greek Orthodox part of the church. It's a little bit higher than the normal floor, and this was called in the 4th century martyrio. And the opening which I talked about is in the middle of this church, where you go look from up down. This is over the cave, so you could look at the cave from up down. They closed the opening in the 6th century, opened the entrance and the exit which we use today. Greek Orthodox churches in general have 3 parts. The first part is here, for everyone, this one. The second part is between the red line and the wall. This is for men. The third part is behind the wall, which is called the iconostasis or the icon holder, just for priests. Okay? Yes. This is a simulation how it was in the Temple of Jerusalem.
Okay.
Nobody is listening. Yeah, Eliyahu. ليش الله ينظم يكون هذا؟ Okay, so this iconostasis or the icon holder is called so because it holds 14 beautiful scenes of the life of Jesus, the square ones up there. It is made of carved wood and has a layer of gold over it, okay? And actually, the Greek Orthodox Church in the middle. Why? Because they were the first ones to get their religious rights back from the Ottomans. Okay, the Ottomans were here the Turks between 1517 and 1917, and they were the first ones, and that's why they sit in the middle according to the Okay, please come forward. Now, as we go down again, 14 steps to the right on the floor is the star. To the left is the place where the manger was. As you go in, you visit the star and then you move back inside the cave because I would like to talk to you for 2 minutes down there, if it's possible, okay? This is the end of the system. Where we touched was the last place where the people could find shelter, you know. And actually, when Jesus was born, this wall, which was built later in the 4th century, was not there. So it was not a narrow cave, it was a large cave. We'll go to the other side and show you the other parts, and this is a connection door to the other parts from here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the place of touchdown. This is the place where God decided to become a human being. The Son of God decided to become the Son of Man, so we can become the sons of God. And if you think about the living Word of God that became flesh and dwelled among us, it's just here. And if you think about the word Emmanuel, God is with us, it's here. And it is important to see the place, but it is much more important that you look down deep inside your hearts for that small cave where Jesus can be born after this visit. Because that Jesus was born, as I said before, is not something that happened 2,000 years ago. It is something that still has an effect and still transforms people's hearts. And this is the time and this is the place, I hope and wish you, that you will feel that transformation. I have a habit of praying with my groups here, and I would like to do that even though there is here a Mass going on, a service. But let's hold hands wherever we are and say the Lord's Prayer, not in a loud. Okay, so this was good timing to be inside fast, because you see now the line is getting longer. Okay, so we are inside the church, and the church, as you can see, has 5 wings, is 40 meters long, 26.6 wide, 48 columns. The columns are 5.7 meters high, and then it's 10 meters above the height of the columns to the ceiling, and the ceiling is made of cedar wood from Lebanon. And if we start with the columns, they are one piece, red stone, and you can see drawings all over. And those are the people who donated money in the 12th century to renovate the church. So as a sign of appreciation, they put their drawings on the columns. Of course, we know some of them. For example, number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is Olav of Norway. And number 5 is Knut of Denmark, and so on. If you come closer, you can see better the pictures, okay? Just let's move a little bit forward.
Watch your step.
This is the original floor, just a step over the. This is the original floor of the 4th century church. It is between 60 and 80 centimeters deeper than the current floor, and we can see very important things, 3 important things. First, the stones in the mosaics are very, very small, and second, they are very colorful, and third, you only see geometrical shapes or plants, and you don't see any images. And this shows that the early Christians in the 4th century were still holding on Jewish traditions on the 2nd commandment, don't make yourself any image. So if you imagine that the first church was a square one, 26 by 26, and the ground looked like that, you can imagine how much work it took them to do it, okay? So you can take photos, please, here, and let's go move a little bit to the side. The thing above the height of the columns was done with mosaics by the Crusaders. So we have 10 windows on each side of the church, and we used to have 11 angels in between the windows. Nowadays we can see only 6 of them. You can see them in the first row. They bend forward to the place where Jesus was born, because the church was built over the cave, and the cave is in the front. You see them, they bend forward. And in the middle of the mosaic you can see the genealogy of Jesus, the tree of life according to the Gospel of Matthew. We have in Matthew and in Luke the genealogy of Jesus, and this is according to Matthew. You can see writings on both sides of the tree, and this is what the church actually agreed upon in its decisions in the national councils of the church they wrote them in Greek and in Latin. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of these small stones. These are mosaics, so if a stone drops, the next one drops, and it keeps on dropping all the time. And that's why you see down, they try to fill some cement holes, some holes with cement, so it doesn't keep on dropping as it was. Okay, so this is the biggest part we have. This is Crusader work. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that this part there was the Greek Orthodox part, and this is the Armenian part here. This is the Armenian part. The Armenians took this part in the year 1810 and they chained it, and this is the altar of the three wise men where they pray every day. And if you look above the height of the columns, you can see two beautiful scenes. To the left is Jesus after the resurrection. He's telling Thomas to put the fingers in the side to believe that he's the one, and to the right is the scene of the ascension. So if you imagine that everything above the height of the columns looked like that, you can imagine how much work it took them to do it, okay? So please then, this is the Greek Orthodox part, this is the Armenian part, and we will go now in the Catholic part, okay? Gentlemen, this is the Catholic part of the complex. You have noticed maybe that we came out from the old church into this new one. And this church was built by the Franciscans in the year 1881 over ruins of a small church from the 4th century, which then was called also St Catherine's Church. So they took the name of the old one, so they called this one also St Catherine's Church. Catherine used to be a holy woman living in Alexandria, Egypt. She was killed in the year 307 because she was Christian. Then she was buried, and later in the year 565, you hear me? Later in the year 565, they removed her remains to Sinai, where we have her remains in St. Catherine's Monastery. It's very famous at the foot of Mount Sinai. The most important thing in this church, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is the church that you see on TV in Christmas Eve, okay? If you watch a service in Christmas Eve, I hope you don't. I hope you go to church. But if you're stuck home, I think the difference in hours, this might give you the possibility of looking at the news or looking at the service. So you will watch it and then you see this church, not the other one. This is what you see on TV on Christmas Eve, okay? What the Holy Family did, exactly like what we did. We came down inside the caves. There were other people inside. Here there are two people in the back. There are people praying, so they kept on going till the end, just behind the wall. We were just behind the wall on the other side, okay? So when Helen came, she built an octagonal building around the cave, and here in the 6th century they removed the octagonal building up, but down you can still see the octagonal walls. 1, 2, 3, it's going around. And this is the wall which we have seen actually from the other side. We are standing in front of St. Joseph's altar. What is the story of St. Joseph? St. Joseph had a dream. Take the child and flee to Egypt, right? So all archaeologists and all theologians believe that the Holy Family stayed around 1 year in Bethlehem, and all of them believe that this actually, they stayed 1 year in Bethlehem, but all of them believe that they did not stay in a cave with animals for that time. So that's why if you read in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 2:11, there it's written, and the three wise men, the three magi, went into the house. It was clearly written, a house, okay? So that's why not far away from here, 300 meters behind the Church of the Nativity, we have a church which is called the Milk Grotto, where there we believe that cave, that house was where the Holy Family lived in. So this is just for the memory of that dream. You can see openings all over the place, and those are probably caves. Because in the 1st century, people in the 1st century, Christianity was forbidden, and they wanted to be buried beside the holy place. Actually, in Italy, they were digging in catacombs vertically. Here, they were working horizontally, like putting a corpse enclosed, and the next one enclosed, and the next one enclosed, and so on. And at the end, you have just an ark, and you don't know what is behind it, okay? So where the people are standing there is we have an altar which is for the memory of the Holy Innocent children who were killed by Herod the Great. Now beside the Holy Family and beside many other people who use these caves, 4 important people lived inside these caves, especially inside in the place where they are praying right now, is St Jerome and his helper Eusebius and a woman called Paula and her daughter Eustochium. Jerome was the man who was ordered by the Pope to come here in the 4th century. He reached here in the 384 AD, and he stayed for 36 years till 400, till September 30th, 420, till he died, okay? And doing the translation of the Bible from Greek and original languages to Latin, and this translation was called the Vulgate. Sir, can you move a little bit? Just I want to take a photo of this. And this Vulgate is still heavily used by the Catholic Church till today. The Vulgate comes from the Latin word vulgar, which means common, because he tried to translate the language into the language of the common people at that time. Without him, we wouldn't have a Bible today, actually. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, where St Jerome was probably laid. This is his tomb. This is the tomb of St Jerome. He dug it himself, and he actually, as it is written here, you can see him holding his Vulgate, the translation, and unfortunately the Crusaders opened it up and took the relics, took his bones away. The Crusaders took everything possible, what they could take with them, even the bones of the forefathers and even the bones of the church. This man was very famous for living every day, doing everything possible to praise God as if it is his last day in his life. There is actually, people say that he used to have a skull in front of his desk, on his desk, to remind him that life is short, and he had to praise. He was praising God every day, doing everything possible as if it is his last day in his life. So this is also an invitation for all of us today to try to live this way of life if we can. I know it's difficult, but to try to live in this way is really something you can only do here. So this is the tomb. This altar is for him. There we have a picture of the 2 ladies, Paula and Eustochium. There you can see, come closer that you can see better. And to the left we have an altar for the memory of Eusebius. Eusebius turned to be a church historian if you go to Eusebius, to go to Caesarea Maritima and so on. The people who... Was there anyone before the year 2000 in this... Did anyone come here before, visit the place before the year 2000? The year 2000, the millennium, they actually renovated the church, removing wheels from the columns. Inside the church there were columns on the wheels. Actually, wheels on the columns. And these wheels have light on. This woman was chained to a wheel, 2 wheels over each other actually, one with, all kinds of sharp things getting out. And when you move her on the wheel, it cut off her body and chopped it, in parts. And that's how she died, so they buried her and she became a martyr. And because this was just 70 years before they built the first church, so she was given the name, the first church was given the name St. Catherine, and then the second one was given the same name, okay? This is St. Jerome. This is St. Jerome, the man we talked about. You can see the skull by his foot. Okay, let's go.